try and make things a bit better. But for upcoming videos, I'll be in a different room, so it shouldn't affect you too much for the future. So for this video, I'd like to talk a bit about something that is raised all too frequently in eating disorders forums, but also people who have been messaging me, and that's the topic of bullying. And just to highlight it, I myself have been affected by bullying during my secondary school years, and you know I was called so many horrible names, which oddly never referred to my weight. I was never called fat, podgy, anything like that. Um, it's strange. The things that people used to say to me were that I'd look like crap, and that that my family were pirates and that we lived in the sewers. So they they used to say that I stunk, even though I didn't really. It was just people who were trying to get at me, and as stupid as it sounds, it really did affect me. And aside from the verbal bullying, I was physically bullied in school. I used to remember coming into school, going into my classroom, and there'd be someone right, just above the door essentially, standing on a chair waiting for me, and they just slap me around the back of the head, and just run off. And this was when something called happy slapping was fashionable, and it hurt. And I mean, I remember one day where I said, "Look, I've had enough," and I came into school expecting to get slapped around the head. So I opened the door, got slapped around the head. This guy, he ran off, and I chased him. I chased him, and I was a pretty fast runner at that time. And I jumped on him, got him on the floor, punched him in the face a few times, and from that day onwards, he never touched me again. But I don't recommend you doing that, because it shouldn't get to that point where you snap. You should try and act on it before. So don't take me as the good guy in that situation. It's just that I had enough, and I really should have done something beforehand. But I've had so many other stories brought to me, where not only people were affected by bullying from school people, but also within their own family, and it must be really difficult. And I'm really sorry to hear that so many of you are affected by essentially people in your family bullying you. But as a universal bit of advice for you, if you are currently in school, I heavily recommend that you go and speak to your counsellor in school. And if you haven't got a formal counsellor, then I really do recommend you to speak to a teacher, because it may not seem cool for you to develop that sort of relationship with your teacher, but they are really understanding, and they wouldn't be doing what they're doing if they didn't like it. And to know that they they're trusted. It's part of their job. So yeah, I really do heavily recommend that you speak to someone within the school about it, just to let them know what's happening. And not only will that make you feel better, but also the bullies can be, disciplined. And you shouldn't think of yourself as being a snitch in this instance. What you're doing is acting on something that can ultimately affect your mental and therefore physical well-being. So by doing it, you're helping yourself in many ways, which is brilliant. The second thing that I heavily recommend that you do is, if it's not your family that are affecting you, is to speak to your family and also friends who are close to you. And this is where you need to really open up 100% about what's going on, because I've seen it all too frequently where people, try and get help, but they do it in a half-assed manner. Pardon my French, but they do it in a way where they want to say, exactly what's going on, but they're either too scared or, maybe too proud to admit that, or even too embarrassed to admit what's affecting them. And this is really where you need to be 100% transparent, because you may not think that adding that little bit of extra information is important, but it can really be the distinction between, getting 50% of the help that you need to getting 100%. And, just to highlight, something that affected me, it's not related to bullying in any way, but I mean, I'd become quite sad about a friend that had died in my school. He had a brain tumor of sorts, and he died on the operating table. And aside from the bullying that I'd been receiving, that really had a negative impact on me, and I didn't want to let anyone know that affected me, because I'd always put on this brave face as someone who'd, was never affected by sad things in my life. And as such, no one cottoned on to the fact that, this death in my life affected me. And it was only about a year later where, I was really getting depressed that I finally told someone about it. And they told me to go and speak to my GP. And I spoke to them, and ultimately I got the counselling that I needed at that time to get through it. And I felt so much better because I was honest about it, and I was honest about the way it made me feel, and I got so much better because of it. The second part is if your family are the people who are bullying you, and that is difficult. It's really difficult because your family are normally the people that you go to if you're getting bullied. And if this is the case, then, in the early stages, I recommend you speaking to friends about it, so that you have somewhere to go to if, if you're feeling really crappy. Because the worst thing that you can do is to isolate yourself. Being left with your own thoughts can be tormenting. It can be horrible. You don't want to be left with these negative thoughts in your head. You want to be with someone to support you through it. And if you can find a good friend, to be with, then I recommend you doing that. The next part is to get some formal help, and that can be in the form of medical help, i.e. go and speak to your GP and try and get some counselling, but also, unfortunately, possibly getting social services involved. Again, you shouldn't look at yourself as tattling on your family. You're trying to stop yourself from developing a mental illness because of how they're affecting you. And therefore, you need to take drastic action. It's as plain and simple as that. And I know you may struggle to be that brave, but, maybe speak to someone about saying, look, I'm thinking about doing this, and they can support you to making that decision. But ultimately, it's something that I advise you should make, and you'll be so much better for it. If you need any help from me, please don't hesitate on messaging me, because I've had a couple of people message me saying that they needed help, they needed, that push. And I've spoken to them on numerous occasions, and in one case it was over a period of months, but ultimately they got the help they needed, and they're eating normally now. Albeit, they're fighting every day to try and eat normally, but they're doing so much better because of it. And I felt happy. I felt so happy that I'd done it. and so happy for them. So if you need any help from me, don't hesitate to message me. And if there are any videos you want me to make, please make suggestions in the comment section below. But for now, thanks for watching.